Can people really see into the future and get signs from other places and times? For hundreds of years, seers and prophets have come forward with bold predictions about the future of people. Nostradamus, a French astrologer who lived in the 1600s, is making forecasts for the year 2024. He is known for predicting many of the most important events in history, such as Hitler's rise to power, the death of Queen Elizabeth, and the pandemic. Many experts have thought about and studied these predictions for years. They give us a scary look into the future that could mean a lot of changes for people in 2024. The British royal family seems to be under a lot of stress right now because of news that shocks everyone. Someone you wouldn't expect will take the throne? Are the last few months of the Pope's term over? So what scary statements were made this year? Did any of them come true? Watch this video with us to help us tell the truth. Pope Francis's farewell. According to his 1555 work Les Prophéties, or The Prophecies, this year will continue to be a hard one for everyone around the world, with wars on the seas, royal chaos, and terrible things happening to people. Nostradamus said that 2024 might be the last year that Pope Francis lives. He will be 87 years old that year, and has already had a lot of health issues. The Pope couldn't go to the UN climate meeting because he had trouble breathing, and his lungs were inflamed. A very old Pope will die, and a Roman of a good age will be chosen to replace him. Nostradamus wrote, "He will be said to weaken the sea, but he will sit and bite for a long time." It sounds like a good thing that a younger, stronger Pope is coming, but Nostradamus says right away that the new leader will weaken his see and that he will be Pope for a long time. There are different ideas about what weaken really means. What does he mean? Does he mean that the church will have less of an effect, or is bigger scandal on the way? We'll have to wait and see. While this is important to keep in mind, it's important to remember that his works, especially Les Prophéties, are written in a way that leaves room for many interpretations. A lot of his quatrains aren't clear and can be used for different things. Cancer in King Charles III.
King Charles has cancer.
Breaking news, it's coming to us from Buckingham Palace.
King Charles III has been diagnosed with a form of cancer.
We will now talk about the next prediction that has to do with the British royal family. A form of cancer has been found in Britain's King Charles, Buckingham Palace said in a statement at the beginning of February. The 75-year-old monarch will not be in public while he is getting treatment, but he is looking forward to getting back to full public service as soon as possible. During this time, Nostradamus's prophecies about a royal upheaval have come to light. It is said that Nostradamus predicted in his 1555 work, Les Prophéties, that the king might give up the throne and Prince Harry might take it over. He said the Isle King would be thrown out by force and someone who didn't look like a king would take his place. Mario Redding, a British author who wrote the book Nostradamus, The Complete Prophecies for the Future, looked at the same thing and said that they later thought the man wasn't fit because they didn't agree with his divorce. The people will get rid of the Eastland's king. A man who never thought he'd be king will take his place. Nostradamus could be talking about King Charles III. He might have to step down because he and his second wife are being attacked all the time. One of the most shocking things this astrologer said was that Harry would become king. Yes, that is true. The prophecy says that Harry, the extra heir, would take his place instead of William because he lacks the traits of a king. This sounds crazy, but that's not all that's strange about the royal family. There was a lot of talk in the news recently about how the Princess of Wales had mysteriously vanished.
Butt lift on the royal derriere to a haircut gone wrong. Speculation has been as ludicrous as it's been exhaustive.
She's in a coma, she's had a facelift.
Until now, a long lens paparazzi shot has given us the only clear view of her since Christmas, other than the now infamous Photoshop fail of Kate and the kids, which, unsurprisingly, fed a frenzy of suspicion.
It has been pulled by 5 major news agencies because they say it was manipulated.
But all it's done is add to these conspiracy theories.
George, this is all very strange.
For a long time, Kate Middleton has not been seen by the public. This has led to rumors and plot theories about why she is not being seen. Kensington Palace says that the 42-year-old Princess of Wales had surgery in January and is now resting at home after having planned surgery on her abdomen. Citizens have come up with ideas that Prince William's wife is in an induced coma. These ideas come from the idea that the princess's top staff members don't know how she is recovering. At the same time, some staff members said they had not seen her anywhere. Also, some staff members didn't know about the surgery until it happened, was made public later. A small group of people are keeping quiet about what's really going on. A person told the New York Post that it's making people confused and worried. Some of Kate's senior staff members haven't been able to talk to or see her, and they didn't even know she was having surgery until it was revealed. US Weekly said that a source said, Kate Middleton's is shrouded in secrecy. The disappearance. The only people who have been to the palace are cancer-stricken King Charles III and his wife, Queen Camilla. The royal family doesn't want to talk about anything with the public, so the Middletons' recovery from surgery has been kept very quiet. An insider from the palace said Kate thinks she has the right to heal and get better without all of this crazy talk. The person also said that neither Kate nor William think her medical records should be made public. They added, "She's trying not to pay attention to all the rumors and gossip, and William is doing his best to shield her, but it's distressing." Another thing that caused a stir was when the Princess of Wales posted a picture of herself with her kids on Mother's Day. The picture was taken down by news organizations after it was discovered to have been changed. In her later apology, Kate Middleton said, "Like many amateur photographers, I do sometimes try out editing. Social media users have come up with a lot of ideas about what happened, which they call the Kate-spiracy. The royal family is also being closely watched because of rumors that photos have been changed. Of course, all of this guesswork is still just reports right now. People can't help but think about what astrologers say about the royal family, because they are always in the news. The insecurity of the royal family. It's worth noting that the French astrologer was right once when he said that Queen Elizabeth II would die, so this statement might not come true soon. Nostradamus said that Queen Elizabeth II would die around 22 and be about 96 years old. In one of his quatrains, he wrote down the exact age at which the late king or queen would die hundreds of years later. Based on Mario Reading's book, Nostradamus, The Complete Prophecies for the Future, which came out in 2005. The newspaper said that since Elizabeth's death, Reading's book has sold a lot of copies. Since September 17th, more than 8,000 copies of the book have been bought. The week before she died, only 5 books were sold. We also tell you if we have to be afraid of. But first, another prophecy of Nostradamus says that climate change will get worse in 2024. This would cause more weather problems, like stronger storms or higher temperatures. There is a 99% chance that 2024 will be one of the 5 hottest years ever recorded, according to the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. 1/3 of the time, 2024 will be even hotter than 2023. This is because of climate change caused by people burning fossil fuels and the start of the El Niño weather trend in the second half of 2023. That, along with many natural factors, has led to a number of extreme events, such as snowstorms in North America, volcanic blasts in Iceland, thick fog and cold waves that drop temperatures. These cases in India show some of the hard times the world is going through. Nostradamus wrote that the dry land would get even drier, and when it is seen, there would be huge floods. He also said that bad weather and world hunger would happen. A very large hunger caused by a wave of pests, to be exact. The prophet also says that there will be a terrible storm, and there will be storms that destroy parts of the world. Nostradamus said that the ground would dry out, and there would be big floods. It seems likely that the tsunami will damage farmland, which will lead to a serious famine. Finally, the Frenchman thought about the fact that there would be a very big and dangerous earthquake next year that would kill thousands of people. The location isn't given, but it sounds a lot like something that happened recently. There were a lot of deaths in Morocco because of a big earthquake in Marrakesh and the surrounding area.
The quake was centered here, just south of the popular tourist destination of Marrakesh. The death toll already stands at over 2,000 people.
The natural disasters that are happening in Iceland right now could show that Nostradamus was right again. That being said, I will also talk about what the Bible says about the end times. You should think about how the Nostradamus forecast fits with what is happening now. In Matthew 24:5-8, Jesus gives us some very important signs that the end times are coming. Many will come in my name and say, I am the Christ, which will trick many. Some people say there will be fights, but don't let that scare you. Things like this have to happen, but the end is still not far away. Each country will rise up against its neighbors, and each kingdom will rise up against its neighbors. In many places there will be famines and earthquakes. All of these are the first signs of labor pains. More fake messiahs, and more famines, floods, as well as natural events. These are signs that the end is near. The Frenchman, on the other hand, said that a new world would start 79 years after the last one ended. Having a fight with China is something that a lot of writers and experts in geopolitics have started to notice in the way things are changing and China's rise as a world power. China has shown off its power many times in the past in areas near the South China Sea, Taiwan, and most of them were bad, by way of its naval forces. Analysts think this may be a reference to the growing conflict in Asia between NATO countries and China, which could turn into a deadly military conflict or a full-on war. Nostradamus also said something similar would happen many years ago. He wrote about war and fighting at sea in one of his quatrains. The red enemy would turn pale with fear, he said, putting the great ocean in be afraid of. Some people think that the red enemy might be China. He may have been talking about what happened in Ukraine, or between China and Taiwan or Palestine. Some Bible translators say that every earthquake, government change, and attack on Israel is a sure sign that the end of the world is coming soon. Even though the events may mean that the end times are coming, they do not mean that they have already happened. It arrived. Paul the Apostle said that there would be a lot more wrong teaching in the last days. The Spirit makes it clear that some people will give up their faith in the end times and follow spirits that trick people and things that demons teach. People say that the last days are dangerous because people are becoming more evil, and there are people openly working against God. Telling the truth, Christians have thought that the end times that were predicted were about to begin for a long time. Others are so brave that they've even set dates. People who try to guess when the end of the world will happen usually look at things like rising evil and natural disasters. It's bad news that storms are getting stronger. Killer viruses are spreading. There are terrible famines and droughts, and tensions between countries are rising. There is no question that there will be more world wars. Christ made it clear that there would be before he came back. Jesus said that nations will rise up against nations, and kingdoms will rise up against kingdoms. In the same way, Revelation 6:4 talked about a horseman that stood for and said it would destroy the peace on earth. It's true that there will be at least one more world in the future. Nowhere in the Bible does it say that there will only be a lot of world. The Bible does not directly talk about World War I and II, nor does it talk about a possible third world. Because only the most recent talked about in depth, it's possible that there were other before that one. In other words, there is no question that there will be at least one more world. As Christ, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, beats all who are evil, righteousness will win against him. At this point, it's also important to note that after Christ's 1,000-year rule, there will be another uprising that could be as big as a world. Satan will be chained up for 1,000 years and then be set free. When he gets out of jail, he leads a revolt of all the people on earth. This resistance is quickly put down by Christ, who judges Satan and throws him into the lake of fire, just like he did with the beast, Antichrist, and the false prophet. The coming of the false prophet. Nostradamus was right when he said that the third Antichrist would come. Nostradamus wrote about 3 Antichrists more than 5,000 years ago. Napoleon and Hitler are the 2 who have already shed a lot of blood around the world. But it is the third person who will bring the end of the world. Now is his time. The Antichrist has been linked to a lot of different names. An awful lot of guesses have been made about who this person is. Someone popular, wealthy, smart, and good at persuasion could be the person. People think he might be Donald Trump, Joe Biden, or even King Charles. But we also don't know for sure who this person is. We just know that bad guy has probably shown up to show off his strength. Now more than ever, the war between the kingdom of God and the kingdom of Satan is getting fierce. I think this is because the return of Christ and the end of Satan's rule are coming up soon. Little kids, it's almost time. As you already know, the Antichrist is coming, and many of them have already come. This is how we know it is the end of the world. They left us, but they weren't part of us, because they would have stayed with us if they were of us. To make it clear, though, that none of them were from us, they went out. But you are filled with the Holy Spirit and know everything. I haven't written to you not because you don't know the truth, but because you do, and because no lie is true. Someone who says Jesus is not the Christ is lying. He's the Antichrist because he doesn't believe in the Father or the Son. Anyone who doesn't believe in the Son also doesn't believe in the Father. If you believe in the Son, you also believe in the Father. Keep in mind that there are many Antichrists, not just one. Throughout history, there have been many Antichrists who have shown up. Second, there is one person called the Antichrist. That is the last thing that the spirit of Antichrist will do, his last work, which has not yet been shown to the world. His shadow may have already crossed the stage, but we haven't seen the real person yet. However, the Bible makes it clear at the end of this age. There will be one last master who is both the worst and the strongest, and will rule over all people for a short time. Who is going to be the Antichrist? The spirit of the Antichrist is the third type. Every Antichrist has the same spirit. It is called the spirit of the Antichrist. With this in mind, Antichrist always starts out with the Christian people. But it doesn't really fit there, and that will become clear in due time. That's one sign of the Antichrist spirit. Nature is a source of danger. The predictions came true. Nostradamus made known predictions that shocked everyone. There are some things that Nostradamus said that came true, and some things that did not. But they all make people think. As a prophet, Nostradamus said that his predictions were based on estimates of how the Earth and other planets and stars fit together. In 942 lyrical lines called quatrains, he describes what he thinks will happen in the future. As a man, Nostradamus correctly predicted many bad things that would happen, like epidemics, earthquakes, floods, droughts, and battles. Fans of Nostradamus have written about historical events that he successfully predicted, such as the French Revolution, World War I, the deaths of Napoleon, Hitler, and Princess Diana, and even Apollo 11 landing on the moon. He said that his predictions came from figuring out how the planets and stars moved around the Earth. History books from the ancient world and the Middle Ages both talk about this. In fact, a lot of experts think that Nostradamus figured out the end of the world by reading old prophecies, mostly from the Bible, and then using astrological readings from the past to guess what would happen in the future. Nostradamus's prediction scared Emperor Henry II of France, who was one of the first people to be scared by it. When the 46-year-old king saw that his health was getting worse, he called Nostradamus into the house to ask what would happen to him. That's what will happen. One day something sharp will stab your majesty in the head, makes people die. 10 years from now, that will happen. He told the king not to get into a horse fight. Even though Nostradamus told King Henry II not to, he still fought Count Montgomery in a fight in June 1559, which happened on the day of his sister's wedding. The two opponents wore shields with lions on them. Montgomery was 6 years younger than Henry. A lance went through the king's face shield and hit him in the eye and head while they were playing. He was 51 years old and had been sick for 10 days before he died. That event was written about in Nostradamus's book Centuries, which came out the previous year. Also, Nostradamus was right about what would happen to another ruler who lived 200 years later. Napoleon lost his throne after winning many wars but failing in Russia. The great ruler is clearly shown in Nostradamus's poems. The great person will start out low and quickly rise to fame. When he gets the most power, the beaten prince is sent to Elba to live in exile. He can get back to Marseille through the Gulf of Genoa, but he won't let any other countries pass. They were lucky not to die, but they still had to shed blood. In 1666, Nostradamus wrote that London would catch fire. He said, "The blood of the God of justice will cover London. The city will burn in the year 66. The lady will lose her supreme position, and many places will be destroyed." The English city, London, had a big fire in 1666. One of Nostradamus's few predictions that is very clear about the year is this one. Even people who are very skeptical have to agree that this statement is true. 3/4 of London was destroyed by the fire. Nostradamus's poems, called the Oracles of Prophecy, are said to have predicted Hitler's crimes, the atomic blasts of Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the explosion of the U.S. space shuttle in 1985, and the death of President John F. Kennedy. In 1554, he and Nostradamus agreed to put all of their efforts into writing his works. He planned for each book to have 10 parts, and each chapter would have 100 predictions, written in the form of quatrains. He wrote the Prophecy in 1555, which was a collection of his most important long-term statements. To avoid being questioned, he came up with a way to make the predictions less serious by using poetry and different languages, such as Greek, Italian, Latin, Provençal, and several south of France dialects. He didn't always say when and where things would happen, so no one could trust his predictions about what would happen. Most of the time, they can only be used to think about things after the fact. A lot of people don't like the book. Some people think that Nostradamus works for the devil. Some people thought he was a fake or crazy. A lot of people still think, though, that those predictions were from the gods. Rich people in Asia are becoming more and more familiar with and interested in Nostradamus. Catherine de' Medici, who was married to King Henry II of France, was a big fan of Nostradamus. Reading the 1555 almanac, Catherine de' Medici saw that poem 35 hinted at a threat to her family that wasn't named. She called Nostradamus to Paris to explain and make her horoscope. For 400 years, scientists have been trying to figure out what Michel de Nostradamus meant by his predictions. More than half of the more than 1,000 things he said would happen have come true. Nostradamus's students said that he had seen into the future up to the year 7000, and that the Gobi Desert would turn into a sea in the year 3979. The year 2024 is still young, so people will have a long time to keep thinking about whether his predictions were true or wrong. Another astrologer's scary predictions. When people talk about scary predictions, they often bring up the name of Baba Vanga, who is known as the Prophet Nostradamus of the Balkans. She is famous for being able to 85% accurately guess what will happen in the future. After losing her sight in a storm when she was young, Mrs. Vanga became a prophet. She was reportedly swept away from her home country of Bulgaria and had a lot of sand thrown into her eyes, which made her go blind. But after this accident, Ms. Vanga all of a sudden knew what would happen. It was true that this prophet saw the tragedy at Chernobyl in 1986, the death of Princess Diana in 1997, the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001, and even Brexit, when the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland leaves the European Union in 2020. Mrs. Vanga died in 1996 at the age of 84, but some of the things she said still come true. A lot of people were interested in Vanga's predictions about what might happen in 2024. Vanga said that this year there will be a big problem with the world economy. She talked about a number of things that led to the crisis, such as growing debt, rising geopolitical issues, and the transfer of economic power from the west to the east. This year, too, there will be terrible weather and natural tragedies. It is thought that changes in the Earth's orbit usually happen over long periods of time. However, if these changes happen quickly, they could lead to problems like climate change and higher radiation levels. The sun. The prophet said that hackers will target more important assets like power grids and water treatment plants, which will lead to more cyber attacks. She said it would become a threat to national security. Vanga shared good medical news and said that new medicines would be made for diseases that can't be cured, like Alzheimer's. She also said that by 2024, cancer will be cured. It was clear to the blind predictor that quantum computing would make big progress. News sources say that quantum computing is growing quickly and can solve problems more quickly than regular computers. This will speed up the growth of AI even more if it happens this year. Everyone can see how GPT chat has grown around the world. It's not a surprise that AI is getting better and better to the point where humans can hardly imagine it.